Okay, welcome back to McCarthy Performance. We have a set of Edelbrock E-heads for a small block Chevrolet. I did a little welding on the ear, bring it up. There was no gasket material surface area here. I cleaned these in acid and degreased them. Of course, first degrease them, then acid. We're cleaning up some of the carbon now. Gonna surface them. Then we're gonna profile them with my Tobin Art seat and guide machine. I'm gonna go over this stuff because after they're surfaced, we don't want to scratch them up. Getting the water passages, so there's no calcification around them. We'll get most of the carbon off of them after I get done valve job. They'll be washed again, and most of this hopefully will disappear. We did a little bit of hand blending. Edelbrock goes in and does a little bit of gasket profiling, and but they don't bring it in far enough, and they don't blend nothing. So this has all been blended back, cleaned up the exhaust ports a little bit. So now that we got her all cleaned up, we'll see how level it is. Well, I'm going to get my other level out, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're going to sweep the deck. Normally that's what I do with a dial indicator. So we're going to do that. I think I got her pretty close right now. We'll verify that. We're just going to take a couple light cuts on these heads just to go over them because they've been runned, and so far the work on these heads from Edelbrock has not been stellar. So seeing how I'm building the engine, this is what I prefer to do. Looks like we're under a half a thousandths. About a half a thousandths. We're half a thousandths. That's close enough for certainly a cylinder head. Gonna have to shut off and reposition. I'll get the machine running and we'll watch her cut. Okay, we made one light pass, readjusted the machine. You can see it's hitting all the way out here. It's missing here. It's catching there. It's only catching half the head, but it's catching a spot way up here that you probably can't see, a little by the combustion chamber. So I'm going to call that pretty much zero because I didn't take much off of it. So this will be the next pass. We're taking 2.5 thousandths off. I don't want to take any more off these heads than I have to, but I want to make sure that they're flat when they leave. Well, when the engine leaves, I'll be building it. So here we go. light coat of dollar store Pam on the head. The cutter, people claim you really don't need to do this, but I find that when you're taking a very light cut, the flakes like to stick down on the deck, and by the time you get them loose, you end up putting a scratch in it, and, you know. So we put a little Pam on it. Cut on this head. It cleaned up at 2,500, so we're going to call that good. Hopefully the other head matches this one. I'd like to keep them relatively close in CC, although 2.5 on one head and 3 on the other, or 4 on the other, you're going to make a hell of a lot of difference. You get around 5 thousandths, then yeah, it's going to change a lot. Yeah, that head looks like it's coming out good. And I can live with that. Take this head off and set up for the other one. There's a little bit of Pam residue on the deck, but you can see it. But overall, that one's good. Okay, this is the second Edelbrock E-head. Yeah, what can you say about that? This head really isn't very flat. You know, it's just one of them deals where you buy a completely assembled head, and these are production cut, and you see here, it probably doesn't show very good, but actually it hasn't been cut here, it hasn't been cut here, it has not been cut here. It's cutting here, and it's cutting from one end of the head to the other. It's stopping, picking up here. I dropped the head down just a little tiny bit here, but that's going to bring this up. So when I say a little tiny bit, I'm talking 0.5 thousandths. So we're going to cut her, and hopefully it straightens it all out. I'm sure it will. It's as flat as square as I can get it on the machine. So we got a set of small block profiler heads set up in the mill. This is just the one cut to adjust the machine, get it to the closest I can to the head. But just to show you that these heads, well, they're not perfect. And, you know, could you get away with them and not surface them? Well, you probably could if you sanded them or something with a long board. But if you see here, we're missing here, we're missing here. The first pass, it did clean up a little bit. I readjusted it by about 1 thousandths. We're missing down here. All this is cleaned up here. We come down to the head, and you probably can't see it on the phone, but we missed all this. We missed here, we missed here. So this head's starting to cut. This whole part of the head is missing. It's not heading it. And it's cutting here, and the marker's gone. and then it's missing here, and you can see there where it's cut. Then it's missing, and it's cut here. So this whole head is kind of like this and that. And then, of course, down here it's a little bit low because it's not cutting here. And it's really hard to see, but it stopped right about here. So, I try to adjust the machine and get it as close as I can, but, getting it close to what? If you reference off of this, how is it going to affect the rest of the head? And usually what I do is I go through the center of the head and I adjust the head this way. So from intake to exhaust port, I adjust the head this way as close as I can physically get it with the machine. And this way I run a dial indicator across the deck. Now I run it here. Now on the Edelbrock heads that I just cut, they were low here, but there's not a lot of aluminum here, and them heads were ran. So after heat cycling it, did this green casting, did it move a little bit? Well, I couldn't tell you that, but I can tell you that both heads are flatter than they ever were in their life. I believe that the Edelbrock heads weren't probably flat to begin with. If you looked at the one head, it was cupped like a taco. And this machine, I just got done doing a bunch of heads, and the head on the machine is pretty damn close. So it's telling me that these heads aren't very flat, and the valve jobs are usually not good. And my advice is to buy the heads empty and put them together, or pay to have a reputable machine shop do them, because they're close, but they're not as close as I like to get them. Well, thank you for watching. Okay, we're done with the profiler heads. I'll shut the... Okay, so we got all the heads pretty much surfaced. They come out very nice. Now we're going to start on the valve job. I'll be going over the 283. There's some things that I learned that I didn't know, but I was never sure of it. Wanted to do a video on the 283. Have it sitting right here. Right there, actually. Right there, and all the rods are all cleaned up for the 283. I've never seen a 283 without the groove in it. I wasn't going to bring it up until I get the bearings, but I believe that the CH8 cam bearings are not going to work in this block. There's another one right there. There, got the 360-degree groove, like all the, compared to them, modern, let's say, as the 350s. I've always been wary of that. I've always been aware of it. I've never seen one yet. Somebody mentioned 265. I think you're absolutely right. But I'm an old big block guy, and that was the early blocks. You always had to worry about that groove behind the, not being grooved behind the back of the cam bearing housing and getting oil to the top end of the engine. Now, when I pulled that one out, it had a standard cam in it. And this engine had been run enough that it actually had worn out cylinder walls with a ridge on them. So this engine had been run quite a bit. Although my speculation is that, with these cylinder walls as thin as they were, who knows if it was just moving around a lot. But there's enough ridge on this to know that it ran, and the cam is not notched on the back, or, and it is fully grooved. So that's one thing you always want to check for on these earlier blocks, is you want to make sure. Now, like I said, I've done probably half a dozen 283s in my life, and I've never worked on one that didn't have side mounts on it, like this one, because these are the earlier blocks. But I never had a problem with cams, and you're not going to have problems with cams with either one of these, because they both have the groove. Like I said, I'm waiting for the bearings, so when I get to that point, we'll go over that, and I'll make a video on that. But the back cam bearing looks a little bit wider than a CH8, and I believe this takes a CH4. The pistons and the cam bearings were supposed to be here. They're not here. So when I get them, I'll make a update video on it. We're not done.